Welcome back, my friends and enemies, to the Mask Fan Attic once again. This week in the attic, it's a Dr. Lady favorite character, Dead Nate, from the 1982 George Romero, Stephen King, Tom Savini collaboration, Creepshow. Dead Nate is, I believe, one of my favorite rotting undead characters of all time, and Creepshow was one of my favorite horror movies of all time. So, big fan of Dead Nate. Now, old Nate here has been brought to life over the years by a lot of different artists in a lot of different styles, a lot of slightly different formats. There was a fantastic version by DWN Productions that was really heavy on Spanish moss and gunk and goop stuck to him. There was a great version by Chris Russell of TwistedToyBox.net. His version also very impressive, loaded with stuff stuck to him. A number of others. Doug Goins did a good Dead Nate many years ago, and as far as larger companies doing them, there have been editions of Dead Nate by Distortions Unlimited back in the mid-'80s, and Topstone right after that. And then this one, which I would say is the best of the production versions, the best of the ones that were just sold to the public, and you could buy one pretty easily. This is the Death Studios version from 2002. Now, the 2002 Death Studios Dead Nate was first sold in two different styles. You could get either the standard, like which this is, okay, which I think is way too cool to be called standard, don't you? I think it's pretty amazing. This one would have set you back about 85 Earth dollars, or for about 110, you could have scored the deluxe Death Studios Dead Nate, which had a little more glop and gunk and goop stuck to him, the mossy stuff and the little clumps of hair on the back and so forth. But both versions wonderful, and I think this is just a fantastic. This is like one of the ultimate zombie pieces to me, and I would think everybody would want this in their collections, but evidently that was not the case. Only a few were ever sold, and I think largely the reason for that is that nobody really knew it was available. It was released, as they say, with little fanfare. It is adapted from Tom Savini's original mold with his blessing, with his permission, and so it looks just like what you saw in the movie. The only differences being the one that was used in the film was sculpted with this area basically empty of that rotted mud and dirt and earth and crud detailing. So this was added at Death Studios and is molded in to their version. Now, Tom Savini has sold some copies and traded some to collectors over the years. It's been a long time since 1982, hasn't it? A few people have copies they got directly from Tom, and I will show you one of those. Okay, this is from Tom's original mold. This is from Death Studio. So you can see how amazingly close it is. There is a little bit of a color discrepancy. Nobody seems to know exactly how to paint old Dead Nate, because in the movie his scenes have colorful, moody effect lighting, lots of red and blue lighting. So you might watch the movie and come away from it thinking he was supposed to be black or brown or blue, or who knows, you know, he looks purpley in some shots. The Distortions and Topstone versions both went with sort of a dark brown leaning towards purple, and they had a little bit of green and purple airbrushing just kind of at random here and there, predominantly brown. And the Death Studio one was predominantly a much greener shade, as I think you can, I hope you can tell that on your monitor. This one was painted by me, but I was kind of remembering the Distortions version, so that's sort of how I painted it, so that's why you see mostly brown. Again, it's hard to tell. Death Studios decided to go with a greener color for their version, but it's pretty wonderful any way you look at it. Now, you may notice one small difference between these guys is that one has teeth and one doesn't, or just has a few in this case. The original Tom Savini sculpt didn't have teeth molded in. Teeth were glued into the mask worn by the actor, so they were separate pieces stuck in the mask. So when you get one from Tom Savini's mold, I don't know if you can tell the empty tooth sockets there, where the ones that don't have teeth in them, are just sort of a rounded, you know, sort of a space. You can tell where the tooth would go. And the reason this one has a few teeth is because I stuck a few teeth in there over the years. The reason it doesn't have all its teeth is because I'm a bit of a slouch, and I never really finished. I just stuck a few teeth in there, and I kind of felt like, yeah, that looks cool, don't you think? And I didn't put any glop on it. I might someday. These have been finished many different ways over the years. Some people have stuck Rice Krispies on him to look like maggots. Little tiny white. Others have used Fuller's Earth, which is a powdery dirt kind of substance. Sometimes there's hair, sometimes there's Spanish moss. In the movie it's really hard to tell, but it's clear he's not a clean skull. He's got all kinds of crud and goop and hairs and stuff stuck to him. So some people prefer it just the way it was sculpted, which is more like this, and some people prefer it with Rice Krispies and Spanish moss and other stuff stuck on. Some people give him a little bit of hair in the back, some don't. It just depends on your personal taste in zombies. And you know, I didn't think of this when I decided to do this segment, but now that I've looked at this guy again, I've been reminded. I might as well tell you, since you're here, you came all the way up here to the attic, and I appreciate that. Nice of you to do that. I'm going to just go ahead and tell you, this tooth, do you see this tooth? All right, on the bottom, right there, do you see that tooth? That tooth on the bottom, where you can see the whole root of it sticking down, you see that molar, that left bottom molar? That's actually from Laura, my wife's head. That's one of her impacted wisdom teeth. And you see, I saved it, and I glued it into my, yeah. Once had a troop of Girl Scouts who came over, and they were like maybe 10 years old or 9 years old. What do they call Girl Scouts? Are they brownies, or are they, I don't know. Whatever the title was, the group of Girl Scouts came over to see the collection and for me to tell them about how monster masks are made. And I showed them this, and one of them asked about him, and I said, oh, you see that? That's one of Laura's teeth, because Laura was there. You know? And I remember one of the little girls was so grossed out and so horrified by that. And she said to the other little girls, this is what she said, he uses pieces of his wife. I thought that was cool. Yeah, I use pieces of my wife, that's right. But anyway, that is an actual Laura tooth there. The others are, I believe, artificial. Those, I think, are like denture type teeth that dentists, dental professionals use. The Death Studio version, like the Distortions version before it, had the teeth added to the sculpture before the production molds were made, so that instead of having to stick teeth in each individual copy, he had the teeth simply molded in, and you pull one out of the mold and it has teeth, and you just have to paint them, which is the way to go, I think, with this character. Sometimes sculpted in, molded in teeth don't work for me because they look kind of flat and kind of phony, but with Dead Nate, who's basically a skull when you get right down to it, yeah, I think it works fine to have the teeth just sculpted in. So again, lots of versions of Dead Nate over the years. My favorite, gonna have to go with the Death Studios version from 2002 over the others, although the others pretty sweet in their own way as well. And by the way, the Distortions one was also adapted from original Savini molds and looks an awful lot like the Death one. How can you tell the difference? Well, the Distortions one was redesigned slightly so that there'd be a chance people could actually wear it as a mask. This, you're really not going to get that on over your head unless you make huge cuts in it and cut it apart and so forth to get it on your head. The Distortions version took the front and back halves, separated them just a little this way, and sculpted in a sort of dam in between the front and back halves, and added zombie texture to it to effectively make the mask bigger from front to back. The face looks exactly the same. The face looks perfect, but when you look at the Distortions one from the side, it can be identified by the slightly different look here and the slightly larger distance from front to back because it's slightly bigger. And of course, you know, nobody's going to duplicate a sculpted zombie texture 100%. If you look real closely, you can notice that the texture is slightly different in that sort of stripe that runs around the distortions one. But the distortions one, I'm not knocking the distortions one. It's fantastic. I love the distortions one. Just think, maybe I like the death one a little better. You may like any of the other versions better. You may not even like Creepshow. And if you don't like Creepshow, goodness gracious, what's wrong with you? It's such a great movie. Never mind about the sequels. Just watch the first Creepshow. That's the good one, with the Tom Savini monsters and the George Romero direction, and lots of fun. Lots of fun. Great movie. If you haven't seen Creepshow, it's one of those that holds up, I think, even though it's quite old by today. It really holds up, and I think still has the entertainment value that it had back in 1982 when you know, humans first saw it. And Dead Nate, did I say everything that you wanted me to say about you? Oh, I didn't? What did I leave out? Your cake. No, I don't think I have a cake for you. Hang on, I'll call the bakery.